Welcome to The Author Show, where we present new authors and books. From fiction to self-help and everything in between, you'll find it all here. To watch the TV version of our program, visit authorswebtv.com. That's authorswebtv.com. And now, let the show begin.
Hi, this is Linda Thompson, your host for The Author Show. Our guest today, Kass Ghayouri, wrote An Era of Error, a book about South Africa during apartheid from 1960 to 2000. Her main character is an Indian girl growing up during this period and tells her story of the injustices of the time. I've always found this period of history very interesting, and I'm really eager to learn more. Kass, welcome to The Author Show.
Thank you, and I really appreciate you having me here.
Kass, please give us a short overview of An Era of Error.
My novel, An Era of Error, sheds light on the protagonist, Kay, who grows up in the period of racial segregation in South Africa during the apartheid era. Kay is the narrator and protagonist, and she draws an analogy between the legislation of the government and the rules of the jungle. She takes the reader on an emotional roller coaster ride as she describes how the black maid in her grandma's house was arrested for being in the wrong residential area without a passbook. A passbook is equivalent to a passport. And like many other teenagers, she hangs out with friends at the beach, at the park, which is total paradise, I would say a utopian society. However, they are haunted by the signs of the apartheid system. At the university, Indian students demonstrated and demanded that Nelson Mandela be released from Robben Island. And the police entered, and a lot of students were brutally beaten up. But despite the terror, the torment, the fear, and brutality, the most beautiful love story transports Kay and her white boyfriend Pete into a new dimension, which goes against the Immorality Act and brings about more terror in their relationship.
Did you write your book with a particular type of reader in mind?
Oh, yes, for sure. The age group that I appeal to are young adults and adults. My protagonist and narrator is Kay, as I mentioned earlier. She mirrors the life of young adults. Her life is emotional and in the center of all drama. Young adults gain a deeper insight into the apartheid era with the contemporary images of the life of a young East Indian girl growing up in South Africa. And besides that, it has all the elements of a story. The story begins, the rising action, the climax, the denouement, and catastrophe. And adults are also interested in my book because it deals with social injustices. And in our present society today, adults are very, very much involved in the social injustices or social issues such as racism or other social issues.
What was the motivation for you to write An Era of Error?
I'm teaching grade 12 English, I would say, since the year of the dinosaur. After years of teaching in a grade 12 English class, I've engaged in repeated anecdotes to my attentive students, and year in and year out, the students showed interest. So with the thirst of knowledge, they begged for more. So now I utilize this novel, An Era of Error, to place these anecdotes on page with fictional characters and an exciting plot.
Do you feel there's another author that may have influenced your writing style?
Yes, for sure. An Era of Error, I believe, does reflect other books. I would like to draw metacognitive awareness or a text-to-text connection between this book and any other book that are based on the Holocaust, such as Schindler's List, Anne Frank's Diary. They all chronicle the upheavals of the radical political regime.
You were born in South Africa and have since migrated to Canada. Does An Era of Error reflect any of your personal experience?
Yes, an era of error does reflect on my life as a South African. I've been through and lived through the apartheid era of South Africa. Therefore, I would say my protagonist, Kay, does reflect on what I've been through. However, it's not just the experiences that I've been through, it's also the experiences of my imagination that prompted me to write this book.
How did you arrive at the title for your book?
I would say I played around with several titles, and I thought an era of error is more of a tongue twister. And South Africa, the apartheid era, is well known throughout the world, and it is an era of error. Although if I sum up my book, I would call it an era of terror.
If you were writing an article introducing an era of error, what would the headline be?
The headline of the article would be racial segregation in South Africa, which is also the major theme that runs through the novel An Era of Error, because it does reflect on the lives of Nelson Mandela and the great leader Mahatma Gandhi. Both were dominant figures and most influential leaders in the South African liberation movement. They stood in the path of tyranny and injustice to dismantle the apartheid system in South Africa. And the protagonist, Kate, does not fail to mention these great leaders that add to the plot of the story.
Are your characters purely fictional, or did you draw from people you know?
My characters are fictional. However, I did mention characters such as Nelson Mandela and Mahatma Gandhi. The other characters, I would say, stemmed purely from my wild imagination.
If you could compare your book with any other, what would that book be?
I would compare my book to Schindler's List, because Schindler's List does reveal and it does chronicle the upheavals of the radical political regime during the Holocaust. And my book, shadows the same tone and the same atmosphere, because it deals with the upheavals of the radical political regime in South Africa.
Where can our listeners learn more about you, your work, and most of all, where can we purchase An Era of Error?
An Era of Error is available on Amazon. It's available in Barnes & Nobles and several other bookstores online. And for those residing in Ontario, they can purchase a copy from my school, Governess Academy. I will spell that out to you. It's GOVERNESS Academy, ACADEMY, and they could get a map and location or directions to my school on the internet, on Facebook, and my website.
In the couple of minutes we have left, Tina, please tell our listeners one thing about An Era of Error that will make them want to read it.
I believe most people are in love with reality shows. Constantly, people are talking about different reality shows. These reality shows captures the interest of both adults and young adults. And in the same way, I feel like a spider. I spun my web with words, wisdom, and experience, and I captured my reader's attention. This book has been used in the classroom by teachers. Several students and teachers have given me great reviews about my book. And I've got readers have told me they wish to see a sequel to this book. I don't know how that would work.
Kass, it's been a real pleasure chatting with you today, and I want to thank you for sharing An Era of Error with us. This is a book that definitely needs to be read, and if there is a sequel or any other book from Kass, I'm inviting you to come back.
Thank you, Linda. I do have 5 books on the market right now, and at the moment I'm halfway through my 6th book, so I'd love to visit you again. And once again, thank you so much for providing me with the opportunity to be with you today and talk to you about my book.
In her submission package, Kass says, the major characters in An Era of Error suffered gross violation of civil rights and human rights unleashed by the apartheid era. This, amidst the brutality, emerges the most beautiful story that transports the main characters into a new dimension. What more could you want in a good read with an important message? This is Linda Thompson concluding another edition of The Author Show. Please share this interview with your friends and family so that they too may have the opportunity to discover our guest and her work. And why not help spread the word on social media as well? Please join us again next time for another exciting author and another great book on The Author Show.
Thanks for listening to The Author Show. To contact us, call toll-free 1-877-955-8800. That's 877-955-8800. Or visit theauthorshow.com. That's theauthorshow.com. Tune in next time to another great author on The Author Show.